Hi everyone, welcome back here to the channel and to today's video. Today I'd like to talk to you about the seized estates administration costs. Now, this question comes up a lot in practice, and so I thought it might be useful if we prepare a few slides and if we go through it together during this video. Now, before I get to the slides, guys, I just want to make three preliminary points. One, what are the seized estates administration costs, you might be wondering. Now, guys, basically, we're talking here about the costs for winding up a deceased estate. So think about it this way. When someone dies, right, leaving assets and liabilities and things that have to be sorted out so that in the end, whoever is entitled to inherit can receive the inheritance. Now, obviously, there's a process to get from year to year, and there's also money involved, certain things that have to be paid in order to do that process successfully. Now, that's what we're looking at today, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the seized estates administration costs. The second thing I'd like to say is that we must distinguish when it comes to the seized estates between estates that's valued less than 250,000 Rand and those that's valued more than 250,000 Rand. Now, today's video only deals with estates that's valued more than 250,000 Rand. Why? Because it's only for those bigger estates where there is an executor appointed and where the executor has to take all these various steps to wind up the estate successfully. And it's these very steps that attract the costs that we're looking at today. The third point I'll make is that although I've picked two examples that we can look at so we can see how the costs can differ depending on the situation. And although you'll see, I'll talk to you today about the obvious administration expenses, in other words, the ones basically that you can't avoid in practice, they almost always occur. I'm not talking for the moment and using examples that cover all administration expenses. Otherwise, this video will simply be too long. So we're looking at basically the unavoidable ones, the typical ones that you'll find in most estates. But you can find others. So with having said that, guys, let's go and share my screen quickly and look at these slides together. We'll do it quickly because we're not in a lecture hall or anything like that. So our first example is someone dies leaving assets to the value of 1 million, and those assets include immovable property or a house. So the administration expenses to wind up that estate will include the following components. Section 9, 2 sets of advertisements in terms of Section 29 and Section 35, a fee that has to be paid to the master, a fee that has to be paid to the executor for winding up the estate, and a fee that has to be paid to the conveyancer for transferring the property to the beneficiaries. Now, let's look at each quickly to give you an idea of how it works. Now, whenever an executor is appointed, the first thing he or she will have to do is to advertise the estate for debtors and creditors in terms of Section 29. Now, Section 29 requires that advertisement to be placed in a local newspaper and in the government gazette. Now, for purposes of this example, we've used the Burger, and the cost for advertising these legal notices in the Burger is 581.90. The cost for advertising in the government gazette is 37.82, and therefore this component, Section 29 advertisements, will cost you 619.72. The next thing we're looking at, the next component, is the Section 35 advertisements. Now, somewhere in the process of winding up the estate, you'll have an L&D account that will be approved by the master, and then you'll have to advertise that as well. That's the Section 35 advertisements. Now, again, the Section 35 advertisement also have to be in a local newspaper and in the government gazette. So we're looking at the same cost as before, 619.72. The next item, guys, is the fee that we have to pay to the master in all estates. And how the fee is calculated, basically it works on a sliding scale, anywhere between 600 as a minimum and 7,000 as a maximum. If the value is 1 million, like in our case, we can expect to pay 1,800 Rand towards the master as a fee, the master's fee. Next up, something many of you might be familiar with is the executor's fee. This is the fee that the person who's running this whole process is entitled to as a fee, and that for the moment is 3.5% of the value of the assets in the estate. So if the estate is worth 1 million, that leaves a fee of 35,000 rand. The next item is the fee for the conveyancer who's going to do the transfer for us. And the conveyancers usually work also based on a tariff. And if we look at the tariff, we'll see that for the moment, on a R1 million transfer, you're roughly looking at 26,000 Rand, 278.50 cents as the fee for the conveyancer. Now, guys, finally, if we look at all of those items and we add them up, we'll see that we're looking at a total cost of 64,317.94 to wind up that estate. Now, let's look at the second example where the assets are also worth 1 million, but in this case, there's no immovable property, there's only cash assets. Let's see if that makes any difference to how the costs come about. Again, we'll still need to advertise in the Government Gazette and the local newspaper 2 times. So those are the costs. And we'll still need to pay the fee to the master, which will still be 1,800 Rand on the sliding scale. We'll still need to pay an executor's fee, 3.5% of the value of the estate. For the moment, remember, I'm not including any applicable VAT. And finally, well, here's the difference, you see. In this case, we can exclude the costs of the conveyancer because there's no immovable property to transfer to any beneficiaries. There's only cash assets. So in this case, the total administration cost will be much less than in the other example, only 39.44. Now, guys, that in a nutshell is how the ceased estate administration costs work in practice. I hope that has given you some idea of what to expect. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found some value in it. Remember, if you did, you can like this video and you can subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here next time. And until then, take care and cheers for now.